Hey everybody, my name is Philip, and this is my presentation of the evolution of special education. There we go. So here are the historical events that I kind of went through with my research, and I identified these 5 as the ones. There was probably some that came before this, but it kind of, this is where it really all kind of started. Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. From there, Mills versus the Board of Education of the District of Columbia in 1972. The Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990. IDEA reauthorization in 1997. And No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. So getting into the Brown versus Board of Education in 54. So up until now, the majority of schools were racially segregated. This is pretty much what this was about, but there were some, I think, some unintended kind of good things that came out of it, in addition to, breaking down the segregation barriers. They found that children in public schools, it violated the 14th Amendment, and also included in the 14th Amendment is the guarantee to equal education. So this is kind of where this came from, where they referenced this, and then it had these unintended consequences that turned out to be good. And they also determined that any child that's denied a good education is unlikely to be successful in life. So, here's more talking about just the segregation and just, in New York City, and 90% in, public schools where it's 90% blacks and Hispanics, and, in Alabama, you have pretty much the same kind of breakdown. It just, it's not given a fair chance to everybody, So, in the research, I found a couple of these pictures that I thought were interesting. That top one's kind of like the iconic, always kind of brings up when you see Brown v. Board of Education. The woman standing before like the halls of justice with the paper and with the child kind of trying to explain what's happened, and then being a little younger when not being around when all this happened. The more that you dig into history and just how things were, especially with kind of a little bit of the civil unrest that we have going on in our country right now. That bottom picture, it just race mixing is communism. Like, I don't know, it just kind of floored me. It just really kind of that sets the stage for what people were dealing with, and that was what was that, 60 years ago or so? Like, that's not that long ago. My mom was alive for this. I mean, she was a little kid, but probably about that little girl's age in that top picture. So kind of really eye-opening. So we'll move on. Mills versus Board of Education of the District of Columbia, 1972. So this is kind of a class action deal. There were 7 students, and Mills kind of brought all that together. It really kind of, everything's kind of setting the stage for everything later. This came down, it laid the foundation for the Education for All Handicapped Children Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And while this is setting the foundation for that later, when this ruling came down, they referenced the Brown versus Board of Education, where they, had the same kind of findings, where the treatment and the segregation was outlawed, by laws that had already been there. So, we're just building, we're heading through that evolution. So, Americans with Disabilities Acts and 1990. This made it possible for everyone to live a life of freedom and equality. So it's also, right here, nation's first comprehensive civil rights law. Where this is all inclusive, but it's including education also, and it's making, in 1990 I was 11 years old, so a lot of this wasn't, I'm sure a lot of my classmates weren't even born yet. So to be in a world where this isn't the case is kind of, again, just eye-opening. Where how could we have functioned not this way? So here's the part, where it does apply. It's giving everybody a chance. It's giving students with disabilities this opportunities, and chances that students without disabilities also have. It's kind of leveling the field, putting everybody on the same, playing field, and that, not just education, but everywhere. So it's kind of, again, building towards something better. And again, researching it, finding this picture, George H.W. Bush, signing it into law, lookers on, obviously right up front, two gentlemen with physical disabilities, and, it just, pictures are powerful. It says a lot more, you can read through and try to read through these laws and understand them, and, you get the gist of them, but just to see that, it's doing good, for sure. IDEA reauthorization in 97. So we've kind of gone over IDEA. My wife is a preschool teacher with also special education also. So this is something that's, brought this back in 97, but this is still very real today. Like, just kind of talking to her and trying to get some ideas and, kind of what's going on. This is something that, she was able to rattle off a lot of information that's still relevant, still useful today, and, that they use, every year, and to kind of evaluate, see where, if students qualify and where they need to be. I think one thing that I really like out of it, and I think it'd be nice if there was something to get this, but just the strengthening the parent participation. I don't know what it was like before, this came out, but just getting the parents involved, I think just even from talking to my wife, it seems to eliminate a lot of issues. They're there every step of the way. They're there getting involved, helping planning, seeing, and to be honest, that should just be an every child thing. My daughter is a sophomore in high school, and I try to be as involved as possible. Parent-teacher conferences. If I try to go there. Kind of sucks for teachers; they got to stay as late as they do, but I appreciate it because I work. And I have a long commute, and I get there, and I make sure to hit every teacher. And beforehand, like, we're going over notes. I have a list of questions for every single teacher, and because I want to know. It's not that I can't trust my daughter, but sometimes a 16-year-old's not going to kind of tell you everything that's going on in class. So I've actually had several of the teachers like, wow, really, we don't really get that a lot. You either don't have a parent showing up, or you get a parent just, kind of chewing you out because they think their kid doesn't do anything wrong. Well, I understand kids aren't perfect. They're making mistakes. I mean, that I look at teachers as almost, they're helping me to raise my daughter, and I need to have good communication with them, so that she, has a chance to be successful. So yeah, it'd be nice if there was something in place for that, for everybody, just to get parents more involved. So a lot of parents just kind of turn it over and don't care, and, parents of children with disabilities seem to be a lot more involved, and that's great. I mean, that's awesome. I think a lot of them feel like they need to, or their child won't get the same chance, the same things that they are entitled to as everybody else. So yeah. Here's the 6 principles. And when I was kind of discussing this, like, she rattled these off fast. So, there's, there's some things the government rolls out or something, some programs, Common Core always seems to be a touchy subject, but, this has been around for quite a while and it's still, um, right there. It's relevant. It's good. It's being used, which that's the part I like to see. Um, well, at least in my life school, hopefully at every school. Um, so No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. I remember when this passed, because my sister-in-law is also a teacher. I just remember, a lot. I don't remember much, but I do remember it. Because when I was in elementary school, I think we were on some sort of pilot or something where they broke our class up into 3 different groups. Our entire grade, like, the kids that needed a little more help were all grouped together, and the kids that were, doing okay grouped together, and then the advanced kids went together. And always, and it wasn't every subject. I think just math for sure. I don't want to say reading, for sure, but I loved it being in those advanced classes. Getting kind of, and talking about that with my wife. She said now, like that's, you want those advanced kids or those kids that are excelling or catching on the concepts now to pull the kids that maybe aren't. It helps them out. I don't know how much this has to do with this, but that's what it makes me think of. So, it came about a collaboration, civil rights and business groups, Democrats, Republicans, the Bush administration, everybody came together. We kind of realized like we're not being competitive internationally. We're not the dominant force that we once were, and they had to improve that gap. And to be honest, that's why I decided to become a teacher. There's still that gap. Like I'm, in the business world now, and see that gap on a daily basis where it's like, I don't know. So I just I'm dumbfounded at certain days where it's like, wow, how are you surviving? And I'm all about closing that gap, making it, and even kind of being in college, like going back after however many 10 years or whatever, just seeing the difference between what I've learned in the real world and just what the college kids have. Nothing against any of the college kids, but it's a big difference. I can tell a difference, and mainly it's just my business classes where they don't have that experience. They have not been out there. They don't realize. And if I can do something, maybe at the high school level or even the college level to help bridge that gap, because, they always tell you go, you try to get a job. Hey, we need you to have experience. Well, I can't get experience if you don't hire me. Like, somehow if we can bridge that gap to where they can somehow get that experience without having to physically go out and get it. That's kind of what I'm going to try to tackle. And then, it's not a bad thing. All this stuff based, on everything else. They've all built up through the years. And just to think, Brown versus Board of Education was just about, 60-ish years ago. That's phenomenal to me. With the no Child Left Behind, it's a lot more accountability, a lot more. They're checking up, they're making sure schools. I just remember, a lot of, my brother and his wife being upset. Like they basically are teaching kids to take tests and pass them, not actually educating them. And I think where they were trying to close the gap, they might have widened it. Like, yeah, I can go pass the test, but am I going to have any skills when I get out in the real world? So it's not, it's still work in progress. We're still heading that way. We're evolving. I think that's kind of why. There's where I got all my info. But that's kind of where the evolution. It's not over. It's still continuing. There's still gaps to be closed and work to be done. So hopefully I get to be a part of that. Thank you.